Anything?
Well, sir, it appears I may have actually found what it is that you're looking for.
Okay.
Well, you specified you're looking for something that gives the individuals of Earth hope, lacks an obnoxious eyebrow notch, it's not quite intergalactic, and though this is something that does seem to be precise, and perhaps the exact way that you're looking for.
Okay, go ahead.
It appears I've located a device known as the Google Pixel 6 Pro, sir. Would you like me to pull up its specifications for you?
Yeah, I mean, we have nothing else to lose, so...
It appears to be a true life companion, sir, and perhaps the exact way that you see fit for the human race. Dare I say, much like myself, sir.
This might be the one.
I think so too, sir.
Alright, let's get the show on the road. Hey there everybody, welcome back to DAV Tech. It is awesome to see all of you guys here again. If you're new to the channel, my name is Dave and I do tech reviews here. And I have been living with the Google Pixel 6 Pro every single day since October 20th, learning the intricacies of it, the ins and outs, all the little nuances, and all of the ways that the phone excels in. Now, when I think of a Pixel device, the thing for me that sets it apart from other Android phones in the Android ecosystem is undoubtedly that Pixel experience. The software, the UI, the cohesiveness of small little transitions and animations that really do make the phone feel whole and special. You know, when you're opening applications or closing applications, going back and forth between, say, Twitter, Facebook, Amazon Shopping, Chrome, YouTube, even bigger games like Punishing Gray Raven or Asphalt 9, opening and closing those things and putting them into memory and taking them out of memory is incredibly smooth. Now, Google has their brand new in-house Tensor chipset inside of here, and that coupled with the 120Hz refresh rate display of the 6 and the 6 Pro, man, using this phone on a day-to-day basis is incredibly smooth and enjoyable. The way that I explain it to my friends and family who A, have never heard of Pixel devices and don't know what these are, or B, that Google even made phones, but are impressed that, hey, Google made a phone, what's that like? The biggest way I can think to explain it to them is that using Pixel devices, and exceedingly so this one, is very much so like using an iPhone in terms of the cohesiveness of the user interfaces, the smoothness in transitions and animations, but you have all the benefits of using the Android platform. That's, I think, one of the highest possible praises you can give an Android phone. Now, the 6 Pro is much larger than last year's Pixel 5. This is a 6.71-inch display and weighs in at 210 grams. Every single inch of this display is incredibly welcome. Videos and games look beautiful and crisp and detailed on this display. The color reproduction on this display is incredibly pleasant to the eye. And if you're a fan of big displays but worried that maybe you won't be able to use this with one hand if your hands are a bit on the smaller side, there is a one-handed mode on this and also an option to swipe down on the bottom portion of your screen to bring down the notification shade. Oh, hello. I forgot we are doing it this way. So you guys are here because you're wondering how the phone actually feels in the hand, right? So at this point, I've already said that the software optimization coupled with the 120Hz display, all of the little nuanced things that Google does with their software, feels great to actually use. How does it feel in the hand? I'm going to forego the long, poetic explanations about how the phone actually feels in the hand, give you a quick, concise comparison in that if you were to pick up the phone, blindfolded, not feel the camera bar on the back, you'd probably think you were using a Galaxy Note device. And honestly, I think there's really not much else to say there, except that this phone feels incredibly premium in the hand. And for me, that's pretty high praise because you guys know I love Galaxy Note devices. And the camera bar on the back, I'm actually a fan of how this looks. It's sort of like a modern statement piece, sort of. It makes the phone look unique. And for me, it sort of serves two functional purposes. The first being, when you lay the phone down on a flat surface, there's no rocking. And when you're using the phone one-handed, in my experience, your finger sort of naturally rests on the bottom of the camera bar, which actually sort of makes the bar sort of an anchor, so you don't always have to use your pinky. Give your pinky a break. And unfortunately, there is no fingerprint sensor on the back of the phone. It's an in-display fingerprint sensor. In my experience, this actually does work pretty darn quick. It's not as fast as the one on the back of, say, the Pixel 5 and the 5A, but it's fast. You can actually register additional thumbprints in the settings, and in my experience, this actually helps increase the speed of the unlocking process. And there's some cool functionality, so if you double-click the area on the back of the phone where there's the Google G, a couple of things can happen. You can actually set in the settings to take your screenshot, which is what I have it there for, or access your digital assistant, play or pause media, see your recent applications, show your notifications, or to open specific apps that you wanted to open. It's pretty cool. I'm going to get back to my tea now, and I think you guys should all drink some tea too. Yeah, get back to the rest of the video. I'll see you. Yeah. Now I've mentioned the screen and how beautiful and detailed and sharp and how smooth it feels with the 120Hz display, and that in tandem with the Tensor chipset makes using this thing on a day-to-day basis when you're doing basically anything feel incredibly good. But that doesn't tell you anything about how this thing handles games, and this being a brand new chip, a more powerful one, Google says, it should handle games well. It does. Now, in my experience, I've been able to play every single game that I've tried to play on this device at the absolute maximum settings with absolutely no problem. No hiccups, no hangups. Everything is just super buttery smooth. Asphalt 9 looks and runs incredibly. Call of Duty Mobile in maximum settings looks really great on here. Dragon Ball Legends, Punishing Gray Raven, even Genshin Impact. Now that I can't run the absolute maximum settings, but this thing can handle that, I would say on medium high to high, depending on which of the little toggles you're sliding on and off, looks and runs fantastically. If you're a gamer looking at the Pixel 6 Pro to play games with, handles them all well. Dave, how well do the 12GB of RAM perform on the Google 6 Pro? About as well as you would expect 12GB of RAM to perform on pretty much any phone. I like to show instead of just tell, so here's a quick RAM test for you. Keeping things in memory is not a problem here. Easily, normal applications, I can have like 16 to 17 in the background, and normal, I mean like Twitter, Facebook, messaging, email, Chrome, YouTube, those sorts of things. Works well. Okay, so other me has some stuff for you that way. Or is it that way? Now I know a lot of you are wondering, how the heck is the battery in this thing, right? It has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, but it is a 120Hz refresh rate display, which notoriously kills battery life on phones. Now this is variable, so it'll go up and down and fluctuate depending on what it is that you're using the phone for, but it's a 120Hz display nonetheless. The very first day that I got this phone and ran it through its paces, so that includes web browsing, Twitter, texting, YouTube, Spotify, being on Telegram to talk to some friends, playing some light games, I was able to get 8 hours of battery life out of the phone. Now, my experience ever since then, I would say that on average, you're getting anywhere between 6.5 to 8 hours worth of battery life, depending on what it is that you're doing that day. On days where you're doing a lot of very, very heavy gaming, you're going to be getting closer to about 6, I would say. But days where you're doing more of your normal everyday things, phone calls, Twitter, web browsing, videos, etc., you're going to be getting closer to that 8-hour mark. Now, all of my days since I've been using the phone have been starting at about 8 a.m. And by the time it is 8 to 9 p.m. of the same day, the phone is really starting to hit about 15 to 20% of battery life, sometimes 10 depending on what it was that I was doing that day. Or say if I was doing a lot of GPS navigation that day, going to different clients. As a whole, so far, I'd say the battery life on here is good to really good, but it's not stellar or exceptional like on the 5 or the 5A. Alright, so these speakers. Straight away, not going to waste any time, significant improvement over the Pixel 5 and the 5A. These speakers get really loud, the sound is crisp, you can hear the roaring engine on Asphalt 9, you can hear the sound of your blade colliding with enemies and sound effects when you're playing, say, Punishing Gray Raven. The speakers on here are a significant improvement, they sound really, really great. There was an issue on the 5 and 5A where you really wouldn't get a sound increase up until you were like 60% up the way on the volume bar. You don't have that problem here. To put it in perspective, from 0 to maximum volume when you're clicking on the volume button on here, there are 25 clicks. On the 5 and the 5A, you really wouldn't get a noticeable sound increase up until you were at like, I want to say like 16 clicks up out of the 25. Where on here, you start to get that noticeable sound increase once you're at about 8 to 9 out of that 25 clicks. So you have good low, medium, and a high range usability on these speakers. Seriously, Google, great job. Please don't go back to the Pixel 5 and 5A speakers going forward. This is a really, really good foundation. Please keep it this way. All right, so you guys are all really wondering about this camera bar, right? You have a 50 megapixel wide, you have a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and a 48 megapixel telephoto lens. For me, the other sort of claim to fame for Google outside of, say, just that Pixel experience really has always been the cameras. And Google's been working with the same really small sensor for a really long time now. And so this is the first year where they really decided to up the ante and really give us a super substantial hardware upgrade in terms of the cameras. Now, before I tell you guys what I think of the cameras, I'm going to throw a bunch of samples at you guys that I've taken with the phone over my time with it. I'm going to let you develop your thoughts and opinions on what you see first, and then I'll walk you through some of the instances where I think the phone really does excel, and the instances where it's pretty obvious that it's just not quite there yet. So this is a look at the 4K front-facing selfie camera video, so that you guys can get an idea of what this looks like. I want to talk about a couple of things that I've noticed in my time with the phone so far. The phone has a maximum brightness of 842 nits. For the average layperson that doesn't care about numbers, basically all that means is that in a very sunny day, you're still going to be able to use your phone in maximum brightness when you're outside, and everything will be easily viewable. Oh, and to go along with the battery statistics from earlier, I've also noticed the days where I get the least amount of screen on time is when I'm using the camera. So primarily when I'm taking video, that really does take a hit on the battery. And those are the days that I get closer to like that 5.5 hours worth of screen on time, versus the days where I'm not using the camera, not taking really any videos, not really taking many pictures. That's typically when I get closer to that 7.5 to 8 hours worth of screen on time. I really wouldn't use the rear camera video zoomed in. You really start to see a lot of the artifacting, which does not look great. But the primary camera without the zoom looks good. I'm gonna go now. The dynamic range you're getting out of pictures is exceptional. I think there's a lot of detail retained also in that ultra-wide lens. And the telephoto lens really impressed me. It's amazing how much detail you're able to retain when you're taking pictures on this thing. And honestly, sometimes the pictures you take with the telephoto lens look like they're coming out of a high-end camera. Really impressive stuff. Now, the video coming out of the 50 megapixel lens with Google's new touted HDR net, I think looks really great. The dynamic range is really stunning, and the detail you're getting out of the video is really impressive. Low light photography, stellar on this device. Low light videography, not so great. Now, for me personally, this is sort of a niche thing where it doesn't bother me too much because I'm not really someone who's going to be taking a lot of videos at night. But for those of you who do care about that and say, you know, you're looking at an iPhone, say 13 Pro Max, that takes pretty darn good video in low light situations. This does not. This takes great low light photos, but not low light video. Something to consider for you guys. How do I have the phone so soon? Well, Google was actually gracious enough to send the phone to me, which I really do appreciate. But if you guys saw my Google Pixel 5a review, they also sent me that phone. Like I lay out there, no matter who sends me what, my job is to make sure that I'm laying things out as objectively as possible for all of you guys, so that way you guys can make a well-informed decision for yourself if you're going to buy a device or not buy a device, and see if it fits in your lifestyle. Now, hopefully you guys at home feel as though I did a fair enough job sort of highlighting the things that the phone does well and the things that it doesn't do so well. For me, the biggest one definitely being the low light video performance. Now, if there are questions that you guys at home have that I maybe didn't get to in this video, please leave it in the comment section down below. I'll be sure to get to those things and answer as many questions as possible. And again, I'm going to be having a longer term review, so I'll be addressing a much larger span of things in that video as well. Thank you guys so much again for stopping by and hanging out. As always, I wish you a fantastic remainder of your day, afternoon, or night, depending on the time it is that you are watching this. And as always, peace, love, and adios. Bye. Bye. Goodbye. Pew.